A massive wall is rising right now along a disputed border. No press release. No official announcement. Just concrete, steel, and silence. But this isn't about politics. It's about something far bigger. A network of trillionaires you've never heard of is quietly reshaping entire regions. They're moving borders, building cities, and rewriting maps while the world sleeps. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the Sable Crown Dynasty Initiative, the secret project that's changing everything. The 3 revelations I'm about to share will make you question everything you thought you knew about power. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Most people think billionaires are the peak of wealth. They're wrong. There's a tier above them that operates in complete shadow. These are the trillionaires. Not the ones you see on Forbes lists. The real ones. Families that have accumulated wealth over centuries. They don't do interviews. They don't show up at conferences. They work through layers of trusts, foundations, and shell corporations. And right now, they're executing the Sable Crown Dynasty Initiative. It's a massive infrastructure project that spans 3 continents. The focus area? A strategic corridor linking the Middle East, South Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe. Why now? Because traditional power structures are shifting. Governments are weaker. Technology has made it easier to move money invisibly. And these families realized something crucial. Whoever controls the infrastructure controls the future. The wall I mentioned isn't just a wall. It's the first visible piece of a puzzle that's been 15 years in the making. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Sable Crown Dynasty Initiative has already moved $847 billion through a network of development banks most people have never heard of. That's more than the GDP of Switzerland. And it's being used to build what they call sovereignty zones. These are specially designated areas where normal laws don't fully apply. Think of them like massive free trade zones, but with their own security, their own courts, and their own rules. The first one is already operational. It sits on 340 square miles of land that 3 countries technically share. But in reality, none of them control it. The zone has its own private airports, seaports, and even a dedicated fiber optic network that doesn't connect to the regular internet. Over 50,000 workers are employed there right now. Most don't know who really owns it. The companies listed as developers? Shell entities. Trace them back far enough, and you hit walls of legal complexity designed to hide 12 core families. These families have been planning this since 2010. The wall going up? It's defining the outer boundary of the second zone. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Here's what makes this terrifying and brilliant at the same time. These sovereignty zones aren't being built with military force. They're being built with money and lawyers. The Sable Crown Group identified regions where borders are disputed or where governments are desperate for investment. Then they made offers those governments couldn't refuse. We're talking about 50-year lease agreements worth hundreds of billions. The host countries get infrastructure, jobs, and tax revenue. But they give up something more valuable. Control. According to leaked documents that surfaced in 2023, the contracts include clauses that basically create mini-states within states. The zones can set their own visa policies. They can establish their own banking regulations. They can even maintain private security forces that function like small armies. One source who worked on the legal framework described it as nation building without the nation. The genius move? They're doing it all legally. Every contract has been reviewed and approved by government officials. But here's the twist. Many of those officials were reportedly advised by consulting firms that are themselves funded by the Sable Crown network. It's influence laundering on a scale we've never seen. And the scariest part? Most mainstream media hasn't covered it because it's too complex, too boring sounding to casual observers. Meanwhile, Zone 3 is already being surveyed in South Asia. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The Sable Crown Dynasty Initiative isn't just about building economic zones. It's about creating a parallel system of global governance. Let me explain what that actually means. You know how the United Nations tries to coordinate between countries? The Sable Crown network is building something that bypasses that entirely. They're creating a chain of sovereignty zones that will eventually link together across 3 continents. Inside these zones, they're piloting a new model. One digital currency system. One unified legal framework. One interconnected infrastructure network. It's like they're building the blueprint for a post-national world. And they're testing it in real time with real people and real economies. The leaked 2023 documents revealed something even more shocking. Phase 4 of the initiative, scheduled for 2028, includes plans for 23 additional zones. If completed, this network would control key choke points for global trade, energy, and data flow. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz vicinity, critical mining regions in Central Asia, and deepwater ports in 3 oceans. One geopolitical analyst who spoke anonymously called it the greatest transfer of sovereignty in modern history, happening in plain sight. But it's not in plain sight. It's hidden behind infrastructure development, economic partnerships, and humanitarian investment. The wall that's rising right now? It's not keeping people out. It's defining the perimeter of a new kind of territory. One that doesn't answer to any single government. One that operates by rules the trillionaires themselves have written. So what does all this mean for us today? First, understand this changes the entire game of global power. For centuries, nations competed for territory and resources. Now, private networks are creating their own territories without firing a single shot. For the average person, this has direct consequences. Jobs are moving into these zones because the tax benefits are incredible. But workers in these zones exist in a legal gray area. Your home country's labor laws might not protect you there. If you're an entrepreneur, these zones offer unprecedented opportunities. Some of the world's most relaxed regulations for startups and crypto businesses. But that freedom comes with risk. No traditional government oversight means if something goes wrong, you might have no one to appeal to. For investors, the Sable Crown zones are attracting massive capital. Real estate in Zone 1 has appreciated 340% in 4 years. But that money is flowing to people who already knew this was coming. The connected insiders. The families. Their associates. For young people entering the workforce, this matters because the future of work is being redesigned in these zones. Remote work policies, digital nomad visas, experimental governance models. It's all being tested there first. The broader implication? We're watching the world reorganize itself around a new axis. Not democracy versus authoritarianism. Not East versus West. But state power versus private network power. And most people have no idea it's happening. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The Sable Crown Dynasty Initiative has a name that almost nobody uses. Internally, documents refer to it as the Cartography Project. Because that's literally what it is. They're redrawing the map. Not the political map governments recognize. But the functional map of who controls what. Here's the final twist. Some researchers believe this model might actually prevent conflicts. By creating zones where multiple interests can cooperate outside traditional political frameworks, it could reduce the friction that leads to war. Others see it as the end of democratic sovereignty. Both could be right. What's certain is this: the world map you learned in school is becoming obsolete. The borders that matter now aren't just the ones between countries. They're the ones between these sovereignty zones and everywhere else. The Trillionaire network isn't asking permission. They're not waiting for international consensus. They're building their vision of the future right now, one zone at a time. And that wall rising at the border? It's not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. If this opened your eyes, you need to hear what comes next. Let's recap what we've uncovered. A shadow network of trillionaire families is building sovereignty zones that operate outside normal government control. They've moved $847 billion through hidden channels. They're creating a parallel system of governance that could reshape global power. And they're doing it legally while the world barely notices. This is the biggest story nobody's talking about. If this shocked you, hit that subscribe button because I'm tracking every development in the Sable Crown Initiative. Next video, I'm exposing the 12 families at the center of this network and showing you the leaked documents that reveal their complete plan through 2035. I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me, would you work in one of these sovereignty zones if the opportunity came up? And what questions do you have about this that I should investigate next? Your engagement helps me continue this research. The truth is out there. Let's find it together.